record and then I'll introduce you. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to have Kay here. She's amazing because she talks about our emotions, and our emotions are so important for everything, including our sleep. So over to you, Kay. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks for having me here today, Yewande, and welcome everyone. Yes, so for when it comes to sleep, emotions will affect us even when we're in our sleep as much as in our day because we dream and our body responds. And emotions are more than just the feelings that we have during the day and the thoughts that we have and how we respond. Emotions are also on a subconscious level. And when we can start to recognize that even breathing is an emotional response on a subconscious level that we can at times bring into consciousness as well, we start to recognize the sheer importance of understanding our core emotions to help us find relaxation, to cope with anxiety, to calm down the stress and the anger, and to actually make sure we put in the right level of happiness as well, because it's important that we balance all the emotions out. Every human being is designed to seek happiness all the time. Is what we are driven towards. And I don't think I've ever met a human being that didn't have the desire to find happiness in them in some way. And yet the happiness doesn't get thrown at us automatically. Yes, life throws stress, life throws problems, anxiety comes up naturally because it's meant to keep us safe. But finding the happiness is the bit we have to do on our own. And a lot of people look for happiness in some big goal or something they're going to own when they've got enough money or something they're going to complete when they get so many years down the line, or maybe when I've met that person or solved that problem, then I will be happy. But the thing is, our emotions are designed to work on a constant basis. Now, I'm going to reel backwards here a little bit in time in that a bit of a backstory from that is my son was very depressed as a child, quite clinically depressed. He's autistic spectrum, and he was suicidal on and off for 12 years. And no matter what I did to keep pulling him out of that state of emotional drowning time and time again, he just kept going back in. Until I realized that being on the autistic spectrum, he couldn't understand his emotions because he couldn't see them. And he's a visual learner. And this is where, for me, the whole world of emotions began to change as I started to develop ways to help my son. And it changed dramatically for him, absolutely transformed him. And the result was this diagram. Now, I've got lots of resources with this since, like books and courses and workshops, etc. But for the time being, it was getting him to understand happy, sad, angry, and depressed. But also in dynamics is gravity is heavy, and that's the depression, the hit the pits, the rock bottom. Happiness is the lightness in life, but we have to work to move up in life because we have to overcome the gravity of situations, for example. And then you've got the flight and the fight, or fight and flight, across anger and anxiety. And in the middle is us. That's when we got fight and flight, we've got freeze in the middle. Or we've got the power to recenter when we know how to understand, catch, and redirect our emotions to where we want them to be. Instead of letting them drive us, we can learn to drive our emotions. So that's literally, in a nutshell, something that I can cover on like a 4-hour workshop just as an intro in itself. So coming back to sleep and why this is relevant to sleep. Over the years, the decade, century, millennia, whatever you want to call it, schooling, education, science, technology, religion, society, culture, law, everything has changed since humans first landed on the earth, wherever we came from. You know, we're still not 100% sure the origin of human beings, but we know we've been here for a very long time. And yet, despite everything that has changed around human life, the one thing that remains constant through millions of years is the human emotional cycle. In that even the first humans on earth would have been happy, sad, angry, and depressed as the 4 core emotions. And the same applies to all other life on Earth as well. All creatures on Earth have these same core emotions. So I started to look at, well, what is the purpose of them? If we have them, there must be a reason. And when we look at how, if you imagine as a caveman, you wake up in the morning and you're like, no emotions, right? You might be hungry, you might need food, but if you've got no emotions attached to that, you're just going to sit there. You're not going to go and get food. You're not going to recognize you're hungry, because feelings and emotions are interlinked, absolutely interlinked to the point we can't separate them, even though they are two separate things. It's like you can't separate your hand from the arm. The hand and the arm are separate, but together they are the limb that works. And the emotions and the feelings are the same. So we might feel hungry because a huge part of our nervous system is based on feeling what is going on in our whole body. Like when we've taken a full breath, the body goes, oh, that feels really full. Or there's too much oxygen or too much carbon dioxide. And so we breathe out or breathe in accordingly. That's the emotional response to keep us safe. That's the anxiety on a useful level, when the body is reading the signals, seeing the boundaries and reversing just to breathe in and out, for the heart to beat, to blink your eyes to keep them from drying out. And so many things in the body are based on this boundaries and protection mechanism. But when it comes to things like eating, it's a little bit different. In that, I mean, it's the same in terms of feelings, but if we didn't have those feelings and emotions, we wouldn't go and eat. So we have this drive to go out and find food. That's the first emotion. We move into drive, positive action. And so you go out, and they would have gone to hunt, either forage or hunt, but we're going to go on a hunt. So to hunt, if they're sitting there all anxious, they're not going to want to hunt. So they'd go into fight mode and warrior mode. I'm going to go and hunt some dinner for my family. But once they've caught their hunt, what's the purpose of staying angry and staying in motivation? There was no purpose. So they celebrate. Yes, I've caught my catch. I've got my dinner. What next? But we're not designed to stay in celebration mode either. So that's the happiness. The next one is to move to the blue. And that is, okay, oh, yes, I've got family back home. They're going to be hungry too. And that's where the compassion comes in as well. We start to recognize the needs of other people and we think beyond ourselves. And so they would take their meal back. And then at the fireplace, they'd sit, they'd celebrate, they'd tell stories. And so the emotional cycle drives through that cycle for various things throughout the day. And it literally will go around this if you need to take a breath. And it will go around it if you need to feed once a day. The emotional cycle is constantly in action against every single thing we have going on in life. And that includes sleep. So in a modern world, if we're going to work or looking after the family and we get to the end of the day and office door is shut, but we're still saying, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and I've got all this stuff that I haven't completed today, and someone's saying, can you help me with that? And we need a conversation, but we've got to go out clubbing as well, or whatever. You know, if you're constantly in drive, and we're not celebrating in a way that we then come back to camp and relax, that relaxation is important to bringing in, like getting out of adrenaline into serotonin, oxytocin to come back and care. And then we go into the serotonin, which is sort of calming down at the end of the day. So when we recognize that there is a pattern to all of this, and we can recognize what it is in our life that might be interrupting that natural pattern and how that affects us as emotional states, it gives us the power to actually manage those states constructively and purposefully. And one of the great ways I love to do that as well is mindfulness. So there's lots of ways, whether it's things like herbal teas to calm down, mindfulness, soft music, good company, or you just sit and talk calmly. You know, if you've got children, you give them a hug before they go to bed. That's very calming. And there are many, many ways in which to move the emotional states and catch them and drive them with a purpose and not let our emotions drive us. And I say, there is so much more I could tell you. I don't know how long you want me to go on for today, Yewande. Just keep going like this if you want me to keep going, and hand up if you want me to stop. I'm fine either way, keep going. I'm fine either way. I can go for hours. So yeah, talking about the sleep is one thing, but it's then managing when we get up in the morning as well. And very often it can be the other way, coming out of sleep and getting going in the morning. And that's where all the breathing and the movement comes in to get us into that drive fight state. So, you know, if you go into work all day and then go into the gym at night, that's almost putting you in that. Some people find that relieving to go to the gym first and then come and wind down. But for other people, going to the gym at night actually might put them in that adrenaline state, depending on the type of exercise they're doing, the people they're talking to when they're there, and so on. And so it's just recognizing your own patterns. It's not necessarily saying this is what works for them, so it must work for me. But it's about learning to understand our own body's rhythm and how this works for each of us. Because some people are naturally adrenaline-based people. Others are very cortisol-based, very anxious, nervous people. And so it's recognizing our own states as well and how we can balance that across, give ourselves a bit more courage and a bit more self-confidence, or a bit more restraint and a bit more peace in life. And everybody is different. But the one thing is we all have those same core emotions without exception. And I've studied people from babies right through to in care homes, in elderly with Alzheimer's, and there is no exception. Even in advanced states of Alzheimer's, people still have the same emotional cycle. Some of it might get stuck and not move as freely, but it is still there. So I think I'm going to stop there for now because there's so much I could say. Thank you, Yewande. And yes, happy for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was really good. That was so interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.